Hello, my beautiful friend. Welcome back to the podcast. As we get started, I want to let you know that I am doing a masterclass on December 3rd. The masterclass is called How to Drink Less Around the Holidays. I know this is a tricky time of year for many people. The drinking goes up. The overindulgences around food can go up. There's just so much temptation and seductive foods, seductive drinks, and lots of opportunities to imbibe, big time for socialization with friends and family. And I want you to enjoy all those friends, all those parties, and all that family without overdoing it. So in this masterclass, I'll be teaching you some skills to implement that are specific to around the holidays. And here's the thing. If you can conquer the holidays with less alcohol or less food or eat toxic food, you're going to feel so much better starting into 2025. So I really want to give you these tools, help you be able to drink less, and then you get to use these tools into the new year and apply them to wherever it is in your life that you feel that you overdo it. For my clients, mostly it's around alcohol and also around food, but you can apply this to other areas as well. So come to the masterclass if you are interested. It will be on December 3rd. You must register though. There will be a link in the show notes. You can see the show notes on my website. There's a transcript of the entire podcast with each episode. So you could go there, or you can just scroll down to the show notes wherever you get this podcast, and there will be a link there. So once you click that link, then you're registering for the masterclass. And once you register, then you'll get the link on how to join on December 3rd. So if you're interested in attending, please click on the link to register, and I will see you there. Remember, we are limiting the amount of individuals on the call, so please sign up as soon as you are interested. And also, if it's not already filled up, I will be putting it in my newsletter on how to sign up for that masterclass as well. All right. So today for the podcast episode, I want to dive into something that I find can come up, particularly around this time of year, anytime around the year, but particularly this time of year. And those are some joy stealers. I want you to experience all the fun of the holidays. I want you to be with the friends and all the festivities, but I want you to also honor you. And so there are certain areas where I've worked with women over the years where I start to see some of these joy stealers popping up with a little bit more frequency this time of year. So I want us to just be aware of them and then have tactics so that we know what to do when we experience that we're tapping up or butting up against one of these joy stealers, so that we can experience joy and peace and just love and happiness this time of year. So first, joy stealers. I'm going to go through some of these pretty quickly. The first one is perfectionism. I laugh because I am a recovering perfectionist. You know, I've talked about this on the podcast in the past, and I still butt up against perfectionism at times, much less to a degree than I used to, but still it can come up in my life. And so when I recognize it, I certainly want to do something about it and not just stay there. So perfectionism is thinking you have to have things all done a certain way. And if you can think back to like some stereotypes around perfectionism, right? Like if you think about when you do want something to go perfect, according to plan, just as you imagined, I think we can all resonate with like maybe the wedding day, right? That big event, you have all these people there and you want it to go a certain way and you want it to look a certain way. And you picked out your favorite song and the song with this person and who's going to give the toast and what the cake's going to look like and what the DJ is going to play. Like it is really, for a lot of weddings, just a lot of detail. And of course you want everybody to have fun and you want to be having fun. But what happens when you get so worked up over all the details and things need to be this way and this way and this way? And what happens to your demeanor? So you could become a little demanding. And then we have a term for the bride who gets too demanding, right? She turns into bridezilla. And I think that's just a reflection of if we take things so serious and they need to look a defined way and one way only, then we can become like, it needs to go this perfect way. And that, not that that's bad, but that does rob us of how we treat others and how we are able to experience that moment or that day. So I see this comes up when I am coaching my clients around maybe the drink plan, right? If you are in drink less lifestyle, you know that I have a certain way you fill out your drink plan and some guidelines around that. Way I teach it might be a little different than other people treat a drink plan because I've seen what can go wrong. I see how people can look at a drink plan and be too perfectionistic about it. And then if they're not meeting their drink plan, and this could go for a food plan or other things that you may be thinking have to look a certain way. And when you don't carry it out to like 100%, you are so disappointed and you are beating yourself up, and it's so hard for you to get back on track. And if you do this with your drinking, I will tell you, it will keep you suppressed and not getting to your goals any quicker. So that perfectionistic mentality needs to go. And there's one thing I am so big on coaching clients about because I've seen how I've done that in my own life and how women that I've worked with do that in their life, and it doesn't give them the results that they want. And it doesn't even fill them with joy. It's really a joy stealer. So be careful when you're thinking things need to look a certain way, meaning you are so rigid, so structured that you're not able to be flexible. You're not able to pivot and adjust and adapt. And I think those are skills that really serve us. They serve us in our parenting. They serve us at work. They serve us when dealing with the public. They serve us so well because nothing goes according to plan all the time, right? You may get it once in a while, and that's like the jackpot moments, but really life happens. And so the better we get at adjusting and pivoting, the more enjoyment we will have while we are inhabiting this earth. That is just a fact, right? And so notice when perfectionism is coming into, and you can feel it. You can feel the tenseness of it. You can feel the grippiness of it. You can feel like, it must go this way or else, and how that feels inside your body, and really pay attention to that. Because that's going to be a sign like, oof, okay, now I need to be a little more flexible, a little more adaptable so that I can enjoy this moment and the moments ahead. Another area that's joy stealers is compare and despair. So it's not that you compare yourself, right? We compare ourselves a lot of times and we're just maybe gathering data, right? A lot of people, sometimes when they compare, it doesn't bother them. It's when the comparison leads you to feel like, ugh, like that ooh kind of feeling. This happens a lot. I hear of women and to myself, right? Scrolling social media. Vacations don't look like the same ones you take, or family photos don't take like the same ones you take, or you're seeing something, you're like, oh man, I wish I had that. And there might be some kind of envy that pokes up, or some kind of like, oh, my life didn't go that way, or some kind of despair in some kind of way. Again, pay attention to your body, right? When I notice this comes up in my body, if I'm scrolling on Instagram or on Facebook, I'm like, oops, now is not a good time to keep going because my body, my nervous system needs a break. My mind is doing crazy tricks that I don't want it to be doing because I understand how I'm causing my body to feel a certain way by the way I'm thinking and the way I'm interacting with this tool that is oftentimes useful, but sometimes not helpful. So love social media when it's useful, when I want some information, when I'm looking up stuff, sometimes for entertainment, great. But when it starts to feel the ick, then I know, okay, maybe it's too much or it's not the right time to be on it, and just to notice that in my body. And you're going to hear me say that a lot during this podcast. I think we think so much in our heads, but really there's a lot of information that comes from and through our bodies. So I love you to really slow down enough that it's not just a mental game or a mental construct, but you're actually experiencing, hey, what does my body think about this? My brain can think one thing, but what is my body telling me about this? What's it feeling right now? What's going on inside of me right now? Because that is useful information. Sometimes when we compare and despair, we get like that inferiority complex, like, oh, what I have or what I've done or how I've decorated or whatever it is that we're comparing about, we're not feeling as good about it because we saw pictures or video or something from someone else. And these someone else's may not even be people we know. And so we have like really no idea if that image was photoshopped. And even if it wasn't, who cares? Like we are all on our own path and our own journey. So compare and despair is something that is a joy stealer. So when you are in any of my programs and we are on any of our calls, right, I make it a very poignant comment to always say, your journey is your journey. Don't be in here to compare your drinking less journey to somebody else. Somebody might be in here for sobriety. Somebody might be in here for drinking less, but want to drink more during vacations. Like your journey is your journey. You were put on this earth differently than anyone else. And that is a beautiful thing. Your journey doesn't have to look like somebody else's journey. And in fact, the more you lead into what do I want for my journey and not compare it to Susie Q or somebody else, the more you're going to learn what it is that you want. And isn't that what you're really after? What do I really want my relationship with alcohol to look like? What do I really want my health and the way I feed my body and the way I move my body inside Transform in 10? Like that's what I'm getting women to really understand. Like how do they want to fuel their bodies, move their bodies, take care for their microbiome and their sleep? Like what does that look like for you? Because that could be different than the next person. We all have different lifestyles. We all have different roles and responsibilities in our life, phases that we are in our life. And so comparing our journey to someone else's is just not that helpful. It's helpful to see what somebody is doing, but then we can filter out, will that work or won't that work for my life? And that's what we want. We want that filter so that we know what's going to work for us. And so it's an individual journey. Your journey to sobriety, your journey to healing, your journey to recovery, your journey to being less addicted to sugary, ultra-processed foods, whatever it is different than somebody else's, and own your journey. The quicker you can own your journey, the quicker you'll get to your results by not comparing yourself to others. All right, another joy stealer is pleasing others at your own expense. So I'm all about pleasing the masses. I love it. If we can all be happy, I would choose that every day, all day. But it's at the expense of what we want. So if we're just saying yes to the drink pushers, if we're just saying yes to the food pushers, but yet we don't actually want the food, or yet we really don't want more alcohol, or we already feel kind of crummy and no, and like, oh, okay, we just say yes because it's put in front of us, or we feel guilty for saying no. Like that is when you abandon yourself to put the needs or the wants of somebody else in front of yours. And that's where life can feel not epic because you're abandoning yourself. Or maybe you don't even think of it as that way. You just don't even know when to say no or when to stop. Maybe you haven't thought about it. Maybe you didn't think about it before time. And maybe you're just going with the flow. And then it's afterwards that your body said, hey, girl, that was too much. Can we have a talk next time that you go into that kind of environment? Can we say no a little bit sooner? Right? You might get all the symptoms, the hangover, I've done button my jeans because I'm popping out because it's just so much food I've just consumed. So our bodies tell us. We get symptoms. Our bodies speak to us. And I think it's really critical to learn so that we can navigate certain situations in the future differently. Like that's empowerment. That's your body telling you what it needs and what it doesn't need, what it likes and what it doesn't like. And we all have preferences. My preference is not to drink a lot. And I love that preference for me. It may not be your preference, and that's okay. You have your preferences. I want to live in a healthy, slim body. That is my preference. Absolutely. Why? Because I see how much joy it could give me now, in 10 years from now, in 20 years from now, and 30 years from now, if I take care of my body and I feed it fuel that it needs, not junk that it doesn't want. So I am in conversations with my body on this because my body keeps telling me, yes, this feels good. Feed me this way. Yes, stay away from more alcohol because it doesn't feel good. And I think that level of connection with your body is everything. So don't please others at the expense of abandoning yourself and what you want for your life. All right, next, constant busyness. Oh, goodness. This is a time of year where I see we all load up our social calendars. We want to do that. We want to go there. We want to see the tree there. We want to do these lights. We want to, la, la, la. And the kids want this. And there's plays there. And there's holiday parties there. And this person's coming to visit. And this person's coming to visit. And let's put them all on the calendar. And that's lovely as long as you don't feel tired, burnt out, completely exhausted, and can't enjoy the moments and the people that you're with. I see so many women say yes, 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 yes to so many things. And then when it's actually calendared and on the calendar and they look at their calendar and they're still working a full-time job and they're looking like, what was I thinking? It is the middle of December. What was I thinking? I am exhausted. Who's going to wrap these gifts? Who's going to do the cooking? Like just burning yourself out. So just be careful of constant busyness, just like any other time of the year, and maybe even more in this time of year, depending if you've got small kids and what's on your plate. You may need to carve out more rest during this time because of all the activities that take place. And really hear me when I say that. Like if you're putting more on your calendar in these next couple of weeks than you normally would in a random September, a random March, wouldn't you think your body's going to need more downtime to keep you fueled? Like you're going to really need to recharge those batteries. We can only, work on fumes for so many days before our reserve is tapped. So that constant busyness, be very careful, particularly in that last month of the year. I see people then turn to food, they turn to alcohol for the extra energy boost. They turn to Red Bulls and Monsters, and they're just getting through 6-hour energy drinks, right? They are just trying to get through to these holidays and just, again, put everybody else first and their needs last. So it goes along with that people pleasing, and just be careful. Take a nap. Take rest, take time for you, even if you just sit and don't do anything for 20 minutes and you have your eyes closed. Like get on Spotify, just pick a playlist and just sit with your eyes closed. And you'd be surprised how refreshing that is. You might even fall asleep during that time, and that is fine. Constant busyness is not good for the body. It just revs up our nervous system. We become short-fused, we become quick-tempered, and it just doesn't do well if we have all these activities that we want to be joyful with and present. All right, so constant busyness, you're frazzled, you're overwhelmed. Like really think about how can you put in stress reduction techniques during this time. This is a time where I'll hear a lot of women say, I don't know if I could cut back on alcohol. I just can't unwind without it. I need the wine. I can't relax. I feel like there's no me time. And there isn't any me time if you don't put your me time on the calendar. That is just as important as all the other activities. All right, another joy stealer is the big one. It's kind of what we've alluded to a little bit in some of these others, is overconsumption. Everything in small doses doesn't seem to rob us of joy. But joy stealers really come in when we overconsume. And I think we recognize it a lot of times when we're there, and we may not always see it coming. It's like the train has arrived, but I just didn't know it pulled into the station, right? We can see like, oh, it's an event here. Oh, it's an event 3 days from now. Oh, and then I have another event in a couple of days from now. And we don't see that the body doesn't really take time off, doesn't really fast, doesn't really slow down between those overindulgent episodes. And so those overindulgent episodes, they keep happening couple of times a week, whatever, and we don't think it's going to cause any damage. But then why do we start to feel sluggish and tired and just become like, don't want to do more and don't want to do it all because we're over consuming? So when we overconsume, right, that could be around food, around drink, shopping this time of year, right? We might be buying all the things. And that could be a form of overconsumption too. But it feels good to have the drink. It feels good to eat the sugar. It feels good to have Amazon drop packages at your doorstep, right? It just feels good, feels good, feels good. But if we keep doing that days and days on end, it stops feeling good. Why is that? Or we need more packages, or we need more alcohol, or we need more sugar. Because now we've reset our baseline. We've told our dopamine centers like, hey, you just got some dopamine. Hey, you just got some dopamine. So then the body's like, oh, we're just going to keep getting this amount of dopamine. Okay. Well, now this amount of dopamine is not like firing me up with joy as it used to. It's not firing me up. It's like, I need more, I need more, I need more. And so that needing more, of course, leads to overconsumption. And so when we overconsume on anything, it starts to feel not good in the long term. And when we overconsume and we're getting these false dopamine hits from outside of us, from the alcohol, the food, the shopping, not that any of them are bad in themselves, but over time, our body gets used to these false pleasures that it no longer finds the same amount of enjoyment with the natural pleasures. And that is one area I hit on a lot in Drink Less Lifestyle. When we're getting these false pleasures versus these natural pleasures, it is an elevated physiologic response. So our bodies are going to be like, oh, yeah, I want the drink, I want the sugar, I want the shopping, I want all that. Because a walk in nature doesn't feel as good anymore. A kiss on the cheek from my daughter doesn't feel as good anymore. I want these extra big things because, wow, that's how I reset my physiology. And that's now what my physiology is craving. So then we wonder why we get cravings to do more of it. It's like, oh, I just need to take a break. I need a detox. I need some time off. And this is why I love fasting so much, because it may be painful to fast for the first couple of hours or whatever when you're doing your extended fasts, but then you get so much energy from it. It's like the body relearns to reset. It's like the women in Drink Less Lifestyle who are saying, oh my gosh, I'm on these breaks right now, or they're an Epic U because you get access into Drink Less Lifestyle as an Epic U member. And they're like, I'm not drinking right now. And it feels amazing. Yes, because you've reset your body to where now it recognizes these natural pleasures and they start to feel more amazing than what they used to because you were getting super physiologic doses from these false pleasures. So if you're constantly numbing, like I was, constantly over consuming, of course, the days off are going to feel really hard and really long because your body's set point has changed. It's when you get multiple days in that your body learns to like, oh, we're not getting the morphine-induced water like the rats, and they don't keep going back and hitting the morphine-induced water. It's like, oh, it's just regular water now? Oh, okay, I might be a little sad for a couple days, but then it's fine. And it loves the regular water. So if you think of it that way, of course, the first couple of days, or when you get into intermittent fasting, as some of the women do inside Transform in 10, right? They're learning on how to reset their body set point so that they can make these long-term changes. And so that in the first couple of days, it's going to feel a little wonky, and then it's going to start to feel really amazing. And that's just how the body works. So when we overconsume, you know it. I don't have to tell you. Your body will tell you. You'll tap into your body and your body will be like, I'm hungover. That was too much alcohol last night. My God, I feel so sick. Or I'm constipated, or I'm bloated. My GI system is so off because of the food you fed it. Right? Our bodies are sensitive to whatever we put in them. And all of these chemicals, whether it's from food, whether it's from alcohol, all these chemicals influence our gut microbiome, influence our neurotransmitters, influence how our body functions and operates. And so knowing that is such a delight that our body talks back to us and says, Sherry, that wasn't a good choice. Next time, can you please select a better choice? And so listening to your body is really beautiful because it's telling you what it wants and what it needs. And that brings me to the point that I think addiction to anything or over habituation to anything that doesn't really serve us in the long term is just a way that we disconnect from ourselves. We numb out those hard feelings. We numb out the things we don't want to feel, or we're on just pure indulgence and getting high mode, right? We get high. And I'm using that term to mean you get drunk, you get tipsy, you get woohoo. And some people put air quotes, my fun mode. If you are addicted to the fun mode, if you're addicted to the high, if you want to be tipsy, if you want to not feel on edge all the time and just let loose, and you continue to disconnect from those feelings of, I don't want to feel this. I want to feel light and happy and airy. And then you train your body, the way to get there is through sugar, cakes, alcohol, whatever. Guess what your body learns? It learns it can't do it on its own. And the only way for me to be fun, the only way for me to have joy, the only way for me to experience less agony is to turn to food and alcohol or whatever your addiction is or whatever the habit is. And you train the body, and then what happens? The mind believes it. The mind will believe that you need the alcohol to have fun. The mind will believe you need the food in order to feel comforted or joy or peace or whatever. And then what happens? You believe it's true. You think it's just a fact. And it's like you brainwash yourself, right? You believe it so much that it becomes your truth. You're like, well, this is just who I am. Like, I just think I was a woman who needed a half a bottle to a bottle of Chardonnay a night in order to get through life, in order to feel normal. Turns out that was just the story I believed, which became my truth, which showed in my actions. And when I continued to believe it, it would continue to show up in my actions, and I would continue to live out that story. Once I changed the story to someone who can, I think I could take it or leave it. Let me work on how to get there. I am now living out the belief that I could take it or leave it. And now my actions match. So the belief, it starts with the belief. It starts with, how are you talking to yourself? What are the facts that you think you're believing that are facts, which may actually be opinions or the way you've trained your mind to be? And if you train your mind to need the crappy food or need the alcohol, it's going to be really hard to change and give it up. It's going to be really hard to cut back. And that's why I help women inside Epic You and Drink Less Lifestyle, if it's around food and around slimming down and getting a healthy body and a healthy microbiome that's Transform in 10, because it really does become a way you speak to yourself and finding that joy from within. If we're always looking to the outside world to give us the joy that we want, guess what? We become dependent on it and we feel like we need it. And then we begin to crave it. And then those cravings wind up strangholding us. And we're like, I don't want to crave this anymore, right? But you can find joy within. This happened once when I was helping a client who long time ago came to me and thought she needed the things outside of her to change in order for her to experience joy. And I said, that's really not the way it goes. I could see why we think that. I can see why you think that. And so what's going on in your life that's a joy stealer that you think needs to change in order for you to experience joy? And so she was dealing with her son. She's a single mom. She was dealing with her son, and her son all of a sudden became disengaged at school. And this was a time where the son needed to really pick up his grades. It was high school. They matter. They count. This wasn't grade school. And she was becoming more frustrated. And by her frustration increasing, she turned to alcohol to relieve her frustration. So while I was doing an epic strategy session with her, we were talking about, like, what are the joy stealers? And what are you thirsty for? Because if we're drinking, we're thirsty for something. More fun, less pain, whatever it is, right? We want to get to the root cause. And it turns out wanting to control her son and his grades was leading to the joy stealing she felt from her own life. And so the only way to cope with that pain was to numb that pain with alcohol. And so we developed a strategy, then we wound up working together so we can implement that strategy so that she could feel joy again while also helping her son achieve what he wants. Because let's face it, the son or any student does not want to be a terrible student. They don't want bad grades. They don't want to be the last in their class or whatever it is. Humans want to achieve and do well. That's innate in all of us. So the environment she was creating wasn't allowing him to do that. She was pressuring him, getting the work done, asking to see all the paperwork. What did this teacher say? And of course, the son is like, this is too much, too much, too much. Go away, push back, push back, push back. To the point he wasn't always coming home right after school, hanging out with his friends longer, because mom would just come home and like be in a pressure cooker for him. And then this led to her feeling bad about herself and wanting to drink more. So it took time to implement the strategy we had come up with. But over those months, boy, her drinking lessened. She began to find joy within, and not magically, but purposefully, her son started to do much better in school. He started to pick up his grades. He started to do his homework. He started coming home right after school to engage in it. and his grades turned around. The joy stealers, my friend, tell you where life is not aligning with where you want to be. And so to pay attention to that. And that means you connect with yourself, not numb yourself. Connect with yourself, with your body, because your body has wisdom to tell you. And we have to be courageous enough and willingness and open enough to listen so that we can make the changes that are going to really make our life more epic. All right, my beautiful friend, so great to be with you today, and I will see you next week.